On Valentine's Day, I saw social media rules come out, and these biscuits are heart shaped.
In the restaurant space, January 1st, your sales. But for us, we've never been a big coupon driven space. And so we just thought, look, what can we do to get people in around Valentine's Day? And this was the easiest thing. And so it just helps get people butts in seats. It gives them something to look forward to. At least in Louisville, Kentucky, I mean, January is just, it gives us this whole ability to market to offices. Like, send your team some love, or send your favorite customer some love with a heart-shaped biscuit.
That's the amazing part about the founders. They just don't wait, they just execute. They just go to market. It's like, hey, I don't care, let's just go for it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Hi, Lauren. It's great to have you here on the podcast. You guys have done something amazing. I've read this story. We've talked a couple times before. You guys started outside of the restaurant industry. We'll get into that in a little bit. You came into the restaurant industry. You built a 14-unit breakfast place now. You've got about 7 or 8 more in your pipeline, and you're growing, and the brand is doing incredibly well. So wanted to take some time today and learn a little bit about the story, about the brand, how and why did you get into this space. So let's start there. What happened? Like,
Great question. My husband and I both went to pharmacy school, and we are both pharmacists on paper. Neither of us practice now, but from the time that I met Chad, he had always said, I mean, literally the first night that I hung out with him, I asked, what type of pharmacy do you want to practice? There's a variety. And he said, well, I want to own my own business. And at the time, I think he was thinking he would own an independent pharmacy. But that the days of that, for good, bad, ugly, are pretty much gone. And so when pretty early on, I mean, we were married, we had no kid yet. And I think we were just looking for something to do on the side. And we opened up a little paint and drink concept. We both still worked full time in pharmacy, and slowly just kind of grew that, shifted to a full service restaurant, opened a full service restaurant, grew that to 5 locations. And during that time, he was saying to me, hey, there's this big biscuit craze. We should get in the biscuit business. And I was like, look, we're from Georgia. Our people like the biscuits, but we live in Louisville, Kentucky now. And these people, they're a little more posh. But he started, I mean, if you know Chad, once he sets his mind to something, he's just after it, and he plays the long game. And pretty soon I'm saying to him, we should do this. And he's saying, I don't know. So he kind of like, he knows how to manipulate my brain a bit to
I
make my
got you.
conservative self, when it comes to money and risk, take a couple leaps that I wouldn't normally do. But ultimately, we have Biscuit Belly. We sold the other things so that we could focus 100% on this. We really see it as a opportunity for growth, a way to really scale. It's less training, less build out costs, things like that. So yeah, here we are.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, this didn't happen overnight, right? All of that story all started in 2011 was the first opening. So we're talking about 14 years kind of in the making to now we have 14 of these stores, and we're growing. But this stuff just takes time. I think it's easy to hear these stories and think, oh man, they did that so quick. No, it has absolutely not been quick, especially with the global pandemic and all of that. So
Of course, yeah. Everybody looks at the end result and they think that, oh, wow, overnight success. Great job. You got 14 stores, but they don't see all the hard work that goes into it for the past decade to get to that stage. So,
14-year overnight success. Yeah.
but Biscuit Belly itself started in 2019, right?
Correct.
Just
Yeah.
right before the pandemic, you guys opened your first location and you sold the other 5 locations.
Yes, we opened the first one in May of 2019, and pretty quickly found a second gen space that we could convert. Opened a second one in December And then, we know what happened in March. And so kind of shut down. But even at that point, I think we knew that we had something special that we could scale. And so, as awful as the pandemic was for every reason that everyone's already talked about, the best thing for us was that it kind of gave us some capacity to make sure we're doing everything right from a legal perspective. Marketing for franchise partners is a totally different marketing game than marketing for a guest. So really figuring out how to do that, and I think kind of come out of the gate well with our P's and Q's, our I's dotted and T's crossed. That was helpful. And so I think that's what really enabled us to attract some good franchise partners out of the gate. I mean, a lot of the people that we have are people that we like found and we wanted and we went after. And again, kind of just kept like, hey, here we are. Here's us. And so that's been helpful. Just good people, especially for early stage brands who are willing to help, give advice or serve as a sounding board. I mean, heck, we're doing LTO planning and kind of new menu innovation stuff right now. And Chad went to Charlotte yesterday because they wanted to show him a variety of things that they had come up with. So people that are willing to not just complain, but also be solution driven, solution oriented has really been helpful, I think, for our success.
Yeah, and actually, you brought up a great point because you're 1,000% right. Marketing to your guests is completely different to marketing for franchisees. So let's talk a little bit through that. It's you got to learn a B2C market and a B2B market. So
Yeah.
how did you guys manage that? And
Well, initially, I mean, we didn't have a marketing anything at Biscuit Belly. We created this menu that is beautiful. Like our dishes are so picture worthy. So, I mean, from the get go, the consumer was our marketing arm. We, had an Instagram, and I think we had a girl who did marketing for our other concepts, and so we just said, hey, allocate 4 to 5 hours a week on Biscuit Belly, like an hour a day. Just do what you can, repost, whatever. And really, they were our content creators for the first 2 years until we brought someone in full time to focus on Biscuit Belly. Um, Separately, when you are marketing for a potential franchise partner, there's a million companies that do this work. None of it is guaranteed. You spend so much on marketing and just hope that something sticks, especially when you're early stage. And so we've taken a bit more of a grassroots approach where we like to search for people, search them out, ping them on, LinkedIn, or reach out to them personally, see what sort of connections that we have, and really just have there be a relationship, kind of this open dialogue before we are, getting them in to hopefully sell them a franchise. And I mean, look, it's not about for us, like people see or think, oh, I'm going to start a franchise and oh, I'm going to get these big dollars when they sign these deals. And it's like, bro, that money is way spent.
yeah,
This is not a short term get a check in. This is a long term relationship. That money doesn't matter. That money has spent. We've already spent it just even acquiring them. So just very different, two very different games. And it's hard for people like us that generally, we've been hardworking, put our mind to something. Let's do it, go after it. Generally are successful. And so franchising is that like takes us down a notch of, hey, they're making their own choices. They're doing what they want. You're not selling them a $12 biscuit. You're selling them a whole restaurant that they got to build and do all the things and be an F&B. And so different ball game for sure.
So my brain keeps going down to this one word that I'm curious to hear your feedback before I tell you. But why do you think that you guys are so successful in this? What's the one trait that It sounds like you guys keep going at it and at it and at it again. So, is there a word that you would use to describe yourselves and both of you?
Good question.
To me, it sounds like it's just that freaking grit that you just don't. You're not willing to give up. It sounds like.
I think the word that I would use is relentless.
Mm,
And I would say most of the time that has served us well. There's definitely been moments where we're like, whoa, we need to chill, you know? Um, I think that a lot of people get into the restaurant space because they think it will be cool to own a restaurant or own a bar. And I truly believe that to be successful, you have to have, whether you acquire it or whether you've already got it, some sort of business mindset. And I don't mean an MBA, I mean a ability to dig into a P&L and figure stuff out. And it's not just going to happen naturally. Like you have to dig in, you have to be in the weeds. It's annoying. But I mean, my husband is at the end of a period, I do our bookkeeping. And so he is, I mean, our books, we're done on a Sunday. And on Tuesday morning, he's like, can I have our P&L? Can I have our P&L? And I'm like, bro,
yeah.
you know, he is relentless. And whether it's chicken tastings, finding some new chicken that's a better quality at a better price, or, everything down to the orange juice that we use that we're switching right now. I mean, this is a nickels and dimes game that all adds up to success, So I think people that fail, they're just not as in tune with those obnoxious nitty gritty pieces.
Yeah, 1,000%. And actually, that goes back. We did a webinar, and I had the CEO of Dickies on, and one of our even board members from like back in 2019-20 when we started talking. It's like, look, I can't tell you how many franchisees I talk to, and they don't know the numbers because they just think because money is in a bank account, they're profitable, but that's not the case. So they're monitoring P&L through the bank statement, not through the P&L statement, so they can figure out where are they spending their money, are they on track to hit their goals, etc. So I guess it goes back to you got to know that P&L. It's I guess you're the absolute proof that you don't have to be a restaurant person to win at that game. You just got to be a business person to win at any business.
Right.
As long as you know your numbers, it doesn't matter if it's a restaurant, if it's a technology company, if it's this, if it's that. You got to know, hey, this is where these are my expenses, this is where I'm gonna break even. I think that's the most critical point that most people underestimate. And after that is from here to here, I'm covering all my expenses, etc. Again, my break even, and then here's where I need to be in order to get to that level, my top line revenue. And then from there, anything that's added on, it's just the gravy on that biscuit, if you will. So,
And for us as the franchisor, we can't help our franchise partners without a level of awareness and understanding, like, what are you spending on paper and plastic? Because we know what we're spending. But if you don't, and here's what we're doing. So without being, there's little ways we can pull levers to make sure everything is in line. But unless they dig into that level, it's kind of, it's hard for us to help.
agreed. So let's talk a little bit about the menu choices on that menu side for you. How did you guys design the menu? How did you decide on what you're gonna do? Obviously, biscuits was gonna be a big part of it. Biscuit Belly, of course. So, how did the menu come about?
Well, I mean, for years, I'll say that Chad grew up going to this little biscuit place around the corner from where he worked growing up, like when he was younger. And he loved being able to kind of have these big biscuits that you would just, but almost like you needed both hands or you needed knife and fork. And so then as we're progressing and, going through life, these ideas of just putting things together. What do we like? I mean, when you go somewhere, what are the things you like together? And for us, it's a lot of like pepper jelly and pimento, and how do we work all of that into a menu? Our chef, Tavis Rockwell, we have a couple menu items named for him, the Rockwell Supreme. And he was with us at our past concept, the full service concept. So he was the first person that Chad hired, and he was with us throughout. And so he has a piece of the Biscuit Belly company as like a thank you, here's some loving for it. But he really helped design the menu. Luckily, also his wife is a pastry chef. And so we were able to, having a biscuit that you're just going to like put butter on the top or jam on the top is very different from a biscuit that you're going to put a big piece of fried chicken and some fried green tomatoes and some pimento on there. And so figuring out that kind of mix of flaky, but then also could hold up to these big, bold ingredients was a challenge. It was probably 8 to 9 months of menu innovation. We would have groups of our friends just to taste things and rate them, like blind ratings. And so, well, they would taste it, rate things, and then we would take it all in. And obviously, with any new concept, you're looking at what's working, what's easy to operationalize, what are we using our pantry, like what are we bringing in special for certain items. And so really over the past couple years being able to weed some things out. I mean, there's things from our first, second, third iteration of our menu that aren't there anymore because they just didn't sell or they were too cumbersome, whatever it may be. Then, recently our menu's built around this big biscuit, but we knew that a lot of times there are people that want to have an omelet. And so we developed some lighter options, some primarily omelet based things that will just keep from having that veto vote, going somewhere else because there isn't anything. And now, I mean, the garden basket omelet is my favorite thing that we have. That's often what I get when I'm hungry. I get a fire in your belly or something kind of bigger, but typically I'm eating the garden basket omelet and it is so good. It's so healthy. And I think that's really just helped diversify the people that are going to come in and help the people that are going to come in more often for things like business meetings. You don't want to sit there. It's like eating a salad. Like you don't want to sit there and be your face covered in biscuit goop while you're, having a work call or a one-on-one. And so having that kind of fork and knife, simple, easy option has really been helpful.
So you guys brought in a chef from day one to create that menu. Then it wasn't, like you actually went all out on that. It sounds like.
Well, I mean, he was with us already.
Yeah.
So we reeled him in. I know initially Chad would take him around to see these other concepts. There's something in Nashville, something in Asheville. And so he was like, this is this is the idea, but I like these types of flavors together. And so, yeah, Tavis was really an integral piece of the menu creation. And so that's why we talk about him all the time. I mean, everyone that goes through training knows about Tavis Rockwell, knows why it's called the Rockwell Supreme. And so that's just kind of like show some love to him. He's got I think he's opening a little deli shop in Northern Kentucky. So like, he's just good people doing their thing.
And then you guys do some cool stuff. So like on Valentine's Day, I saw social media rolls come out and these biscuits are heart shaped. And so walk us through that. How did that come about and why?
Well, in the restaurant space, January 1st, your sales decline. People make New Year's resolutions to be healthy and they make New Year's resolutions to save money. And so typically January, you'll see a lot of like value ads, value things happening. But for us, we've never been a big coupon driven space. And so initially we just thought, look, what can we do to get people in around Valentine's Day? And this was the easiest thing. And at this time, I mean, when we started doing this, like we didn't have a training VP, we didn't have some of the leadership. So really it was truly what's something fun and unique that we can just think that we thought of quickly to roll out. Literally the only difference is our biscuit cutter. Instead of it being like this, it's like this. So the first year we did it just for Valentine's weekend. It was a hit. It did well. Instagram goes crazy. We extended it to a week, and now we do it for the whole month of February. And so where we used to see some of those sales and the traffic come back right around the Valentine's Day point, now it's earlier. And so it just helps get people butts in seats. It gives them something to look forward to. At least in Louisville, Kentucky, I mean, January is just frigid, freezing. And so this is a warm way. People are like, I want to see some love. And then now, I mean, I know we'll talk some about catering, but we do it with our catering. I mean, we do it for every biscuit that's made in February. And so, hey, it gives us this whole ability to market to offices, like send your team some love, or send your favorite customer some love with a heart-shaped biscuit. So,
and it's unique. Yeah, I agree. So it sounds like what I heard is you didn't have anybody to push back and say, oh no, we can't do that, we got to go through the 4 weeks of testing and that. It's like, no, we're doing that tomorrow morning. Let me order this thing, the heart-shaped thing on Amazon. It'll be here tomorrow morning. We'll start tomorrow morning.
Exactly.
I think that's the amazing part about the founders. They just don't wait. They just execute. They just go to market. It's like, hey, I don't care. Let's just go for it. Like, what's the worst that can happen?
And that, I mean, while that is awesome that we were able to do it with something like this, if we were to try to do that with other things now with 14 stores, I mean, it's just so different. And that's actually, Aaron, he has these ideas and he's like, yeah, let's take it out to our teams. Let's roll it out next week. And we're all like, hang on, we got to communicate it. We got to communicate it again. We got to communicate it again. And we got to make marketing materials. And we got to, so kind of that push and pull, I would say, is how one of the ways that we've worked really well together is, okay, he is the pusher. And then we are like, here's everything that needs to get done so that we can do this successfully. Then, I mean, there are things that our office is right across the street from our first location, and it's one of the busier stores. So if we want to test things out when we do menu innovation, we have no problem just stapling a new little piece of paper on the menu. Like, here's some options, try this. And just to see what works. So that pleases his need for immediate action, but also allows us to test and make sure we're making smart decisions before we roll it out to all these other people.
Of course. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's get into catering. You guys just recently started on the catering stuff. So how well is it going? How is it going? Is it working, not working?
Oh, yeah. I mean, catering has been, I think, quite a game changer for us. For years, the only traffic that we had was in-store or takeout. And so catering, in addition to it just adding some real great sales, it's allowed us to get in front of people that did not know anything about Biscuit Belly. So, people have it at their office space and then they're like, well, what is this? And so then they come in for like larger catering orders, especially, we try to be incredibly hands-on. Often if you look at my Instagram, I have loads of funnies about, sometimes I'm the cart girl. Sometimes I'm in there, folding up biscuits, like whatever is needed from a catering perspective. And this is another thing that has grown significantly. When we started it, we had this ideal menu and we really worked hard to figure out what works, what makes money, what's easy to execute, what stays good. Like once you're delivering something for 300 people, like what still tastes
good? Yeah, and then travels. Yeah, it's going to be served 30, 45 minutes later. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes. And so figuring all those pieces out has really helped us to consolidate our catering a bit. When I think about the best catering companies out there, I think of a couple places in Louisville that are a little smaller, but they have very few items that they cater. They just knock it out of the park with those things. And so I think it's easy to want to be all things to everyone, but once we were able to figure out what works and what's simple and consolidate, it's really, really helped. And now, I mean, we did a 1,600 biscuit order a few weeks ago, and those same people are coming back. We're doing 1,100 biscuits for them next week. Like, it has absolutely been such a huge, nice add on, not just, from a top line perspective, but for our teams, like a way to grow and develop someone. Hey, we're going to put you in charge of these caterings. You're going to run the caterings for the next 4 to 6. Let's figure out what are things we could do better. What are things that we haven't figured out yet? So it's just multi layers. Once our teams kind of saw the impact that it made, and we bonus our GMs, and so based on their sales and their controlling of costs, once they saw the impact it could make to their take home dollar, they are all in, and they're making sure that these are good experiences, that these people want to come back. And so I think that's really been key to our success, is just how much they have been all in. They've said yes, 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 yes to things. And
Yeah, because without them, you can't pull it off. So, and I heard, yeah, and I heard this little, I was watching this famous Silicon Valley CRO. I was listening to a podcast, and he's like, listen, salespeople are coin operated. So it made me like think, like, what? Yeah, and immediately I'm like, what exactly does that mean? And he immediately said it. It's like you just put coins in, you get sales out. So
it's wild.
yeah, and I think majority of people are probably Coinbase operated. You give them bonuses, it helps. It drives motivation. It brings them. In fact, we were talking with my COO. I was talking yesterday. I'm like, look, we should even bonus our customer success people, because if they crush it, like they do the great job on onboarding, they answer the client communication, they schedule the technician to be on time, they get the parts ordered, shipped, like everything works perfectly, we should give them some sort of a bonus to say, hey, here's for going above and beyond. And our CTO one time, when we were talking about these bonuses, it's like, hey, we're not going to bonus if you hit 100%, right? Because that's why you get paid salary. Right? That's your basic compensation, is to do 100%. We don't pay you to do 70% of the work and pay you 100%. But if you go above and beyond, then we want to recognize that. And then maybe that coin operated thing, maybe that plays in. And
I've heard that of people bonusing, or a piece of their bonus structure is based on turnover, for instance, because if people are well trained, if they have a good work environment, they're going to want to stay. And I that's fascinating. Like, I think that's amazing, especially if you can pull it off in the food and beverage space.
Yeah, and I think it's like, let's jump into this labor thing. But I think personally, like any employee, like if they're my employee, your employees, if they're in restaurants, if they're in tech, ultimately what they care about is they don't want to work 3 jobs to pay their bills, right? Yeah. So that's the number one thing. They want to have a fun, good environment where they enjoy coming to work, they love doing what they're doing, and they're growing. I think if you check those 3 off, your turnover shouldn't be. It should be a lot more under control versus the industry. Now, yeah. It's simple. It's not very easy to execute. You're always going to have things, but I think if you manage those 3, and as the owner of the restaurant or owner of the business, I think it's your obligation to do that. So for you guys in a restaurant space, I think it's your obligation to drive top line revenue, because they get paid on tips. The restaurant is profitable. You're able to pay their salaries. You're able to do all of that. And then same thing on my side. When I'm on the tech side, my obligation is to drive revenue for the company. Because if I don't, then it's a 3-legged stool where one leg just